welcome to Reading Between the Lines. Today we're here with author Joel Broughton, here to discuss his comeback with his new and old book, Sheer Terror. Thanks for being with us, Joel.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So first I'd like to ask you, can you just tell us a little bit about this book and what inspired you to write it?
Well, I think that what inspired me to write it was I was in 5th grade and it was a requirement. It was an assignment for our composition class. But I was also a huge fan of reading and writing. I read a lot of the R.L. Stine books and probably other author, Stephen King at the time. So that it really put me in that horror state of mind. And so I was inspired to write this book, which is sort of a tale of some children. I mean, you write what you know, right? So it was a tale of 5th graders being attacked by evil teachers, and not just with bad grades, with actual giant saws and hammers and axes and red glowing eyes, the things of that nature.
So it's my understanding that this isn't the first release of this book. Can you tell us a little bit about your publishing company, J&A Publishing?
Well, the J&A Publishing Company was a now defunct little outfit that in 5th grade, my friend Darren and I published all of our friends' works. I think we got a nice fat little percentage of their book sales, so that was pretty good. I don't know what a percentage of 25 cents is, but it was enough to buy some Hershey bars, as I recall. So, but you know, everyone in class wrote things of varying degrees of quality, and we put them out. So that's what that was, and it obviously published Sheer Terror.
Great. And now we're going to cut to an excerpt from Joel Broughton's book, Sheer Terror.
The side of Kelly's head throbbed. Where am I, she thought. Her scalp started to itch. She lifted her hands to scratch it, and she realized that her hands and feet were tied to something hard. She looked down and saw a log. She was tied to a log. Why in God's name was she tied to a log? She felt something crawling around in her hair. Gross, she thought. Now I probably have lice. She tried to shake them away, but they were clinging to her hair. I have spiders in my hair, Kelly realized. Ew, she screamed, disgusted. She could hear her echo. Then she heard something she wasn't expecting to hear. An answer. Oh, Lord, what do you think you're doing? He asked. That saw is dangerous, you know. For the first time, Kelly noticed a huge, jagged saw resting in between two incredibly flimsy rods holding it in place. He reached up to untie the ropes binding Kelly to the log and in the path of a saw that had a diameter of 30 feet. Without warning, the man's eyes suddenly rolled into the back of his head and he collapsed onto the floor. Standing directly behind him, bloody axe in hand, was the evil lady. Let's get this party started, shall we? She said. Then she carried the blood-soaked axe over to a locked control panel on the wall. She slammed the axe down hard on the lock. It flew off, slamming down on the floor with a metallic bang. Cheap locks, the evil lady said. Then she pulled off the door of the box and pushed a red button. Kelly looked up and the fear started to rise in her chest as the saw started to whirl. But Kelly stayed where she was. The log was not moving. The evil pushed another button. The lights went out. Another. They came back on. Another. And then Kelly started to move toward the saw. She had no time. She took one last look at the evil woman. She stared at her with an angry face, then turned her attention to the huge saw, but it was already on top of her. She felt the saw reach the end of her shoe. Then it reached her foot. The pain was unbearable. Kelly screamed as she watched her flesh being ripped to pieces. Then a miraculous thing happened. The saw stopped. Oh, Lord, the woman screamed. Then she went over to the control panel and turned the saw to maximum power. The woman's eyes gleamed with delight as she saw the saw start up again. But the saw was stuck, and it started to build up pressure from its maximum power setting. And then the flimsy rods that held the saw in place started to break. And the saw was torn free with such force that it flew past Kelly and right into the evil woman. The woman screamed in horror as the saw came down upon her, and it sliced her straight down the middle of her chest and cut her in two. And then, in a matter of seconds, the woman's body turned to dust. Then the dust floated into the air and formed a face. The woman's face. It said, "It's not over yet, little one." My God, Kelly said under her breath. She could hear her heart pounding, and she knew she would never forget this moment in her entire life.
Great.